March the 25th, 2024, around 6:30 p.m. GMT, which was yesterday night, I was sat right here in the studio talking to Donald Robertson. Now, Donald Robertson has, for many years, trained people in psychotherapy. He's a CBT therapist, cognitive behavioral therapist, and I believe he's the leading expert on the topic of Stoicism and Marcus Aurelius. He wrote How to Think Like a Roman Emperor, which I'm sure millions of people love that book. He also wrote these two books, which I think are incredible, and he's wrote many more. We was talking about how Marcus Aurelius can help with worry and anxiety. The talk went on for about 3 hours, and something occurred to me as we was talking. I realized, obviously, that Donald is the leading expert, and some things he was saying was out of my knowledge range. He was saying things that were new to me and was very interesting. And it made me think that many of the things I probably share on this channel about Stoicism might be out of the knowledge range of people that don't know what Stoicism is. Because I've been studying it for over a decade now, I've read all the Stoic books, and people that have just got introduced to it, as me and Donald were talking, was saying how when he started, no one really knew what it was, but now there's an influx of popularity from social media, TikTok, Instagram, and loads of people are coming in, hearing about this Stoicism, and people are getting the wrong idea of it. And I think what happens is people get the wrong idea and share things, and then these experts that we see, I'm not including Donald Robertson in that, but some people that claim to be experts will ridicule these people for getting Stoicism wrong. They'll say, this isn't Stoicism, you're wrong. And I think what I want to do, because I've been studying it for a long time, I've wrote a book on Stoicism, I think I can quite easily answer Google's most asked questions about Stoicism. So if you're just beginning to learn what Stoicism is, then this will clear up a few misconceptions and might give you a better idea. So then when you come into a podcast, my next podcast with Donald Robertson, that's 3 hours long, you have an understanding of what we are talking about, and it'll make a lot more sense because his knowledge is vast, and it's hard to keep up with sometimes. But if you have these little bits of context, little bits of knowledge, understanding the basic principles, you'll enjoy the talk very much. I really enjoyed it. I've never learned so much in my life from talking with someone. So, welcome back to the Everyday Stoic with myself, William Mulligan. I believe that we all deserve to flourish. I wrote this in the acknowledgements, the dedication of my book. I said everyone deserves to flourish, and I hope to bring that flourishing around to you. I believe that flourishing comes from learning, and what better way to learn than understanding the philosophies that have been refined for thousands of years, passed down to people for thousands of years, and then understanding how everyday people use these philosophies in their life, and not just these ancient philosophies, but their own philosophies. Because like me and Donald were talking last night, it's so difficult to learn from a master. He said people try and model themselves off the master, but the master has no flaws. But if we can model ourselves off everyday, ordinary people who have gone from where we were to where we want to be, then we can take that same journey, taking their path. So today's episode is powered by Huel. Huel is a quick, affordable, nutritiously complete food with everything that your body needs. And I love Huel. I use it every day, and it's what I start my day off and my lunches, and I just know I'm getting something nutritious and tasty, and it's quick, rather than me nipping to the shops every so often to spend a load of money on rubbish. Also, my book, The Everyday Stoic, Simple Rules for a Good Life, is available for order. And it's just been translated again into its 12th language. So they will be coming soon. I'll get the dates up as soon as I know, but it's coming to US and Canada next month, but it's available in the UK now. So today I'll be answering Google's most asked questions about Stoicism. What books to read? This is the question I get asked the most, actually, and I will always answer, this is what I've been answering for many years, the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. And personally, I think the Penguin Classic translation is good enough. In fact, it's my favorite one. There's a little bit of nostalgia attached to it because it's the one I've been reading for a decade, but it's good enough. Many translations are good enough. People are very snobbish about which one you should read. But the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius are the emperor's personal thoughts. It's his diary. So this emperor, around 2,000 years ago, he wrote down his own thoughts that were based on Stoic principles, and it's how he became a good person. So I really recommend that one. It doesn't really teach you about Stoicism. It teaches you how to be a Stoic. The next one is the Enchiridion, the discourses and selected writings of Epictetus. Again, I've got the Penguin Classic. Again, these were just things that Epictetus was saying as a Stoic. His student, Arian of Nicomedia, he wrote these sayings down, and then they became this best-selling book that survived thousands of years. It's incredible, absolutely incredible. Two of the greatest pieces of literature I've ever read. And then the next one, I'm just talking about, these are the three originals. Seneca, Letters from a Stoic. Again, Seneca was an incredible writer of his time, and he wrote so much about Stoicism. It's extensive, it's amazing. So straight from the go, those three. And then I always recommend Donald Robertson's writings, specifically How to Think Like a Roman Emperor. But my favorite is Build Your Resilience. Now, this requires a bit more knowledge, I think, than the other books, but you can read this for a very long time. I've been reading it for a very long time. Then, I recommend The Everyday Stoic, Simple Rules for a Good Life, because it is mine and it looks beautiful. But actually, it's probably the best entry I've seen in Stoicism, because I've simplified it very well in a way that I understood. I didn't have all this education. I just understood it from reading the original text and applying it into my life for over a decade. And it took me from feeling weak, anxious, and lost, and feeling like the world was against me, to being someone that feels good. I have direction, I feel confident, I'm happy in life. And I've sort of wrote that path there. So like I said earlier, you can model yourself off the person I was. Maybe many of you feel the same, you feel lost and anxious, and you can follow my progress, how I actually did it following Stoic principles. So they're the books I recommend. And there's so many more, but they're the ones I recommend to start. And then you've got Massimo Pigliucci, you've got Brittany Polat, you've got William B. Irvine, you've got Ryan Holiday, who I'm sure many people were introduced to Stoicism through Ryan Holiday. And I think the amount of people he's got interest in Stoicism is just incredible. So next question, how Stoicism became broism. So if you're not aware, broism is this false understanding of Stoicism. It's about being like an alpha male, not caring about your emotions, not really caring about the external world. And how this happened is people took little passages from the Meditations, little teachings from Ryan Holiday, and they kind of condensed it into one little quote that got shared about, and then people latched onto these ideas that were completely wrong. Now, I'm not saying it's bad, because my entry into Stoicism was through reading the Meditations and misunderstanding it at the start. But then after reading it for a very long time, I started to understand Stoicism. But it just became broism based off of sharing quotes that are quite exciting. You know, some of the quotes aren't as exciting, but they're necessary to learn. And these just got shared about, and people got a false understanding of what Stoicism is. And then, of course, there is the word Stoic with a little s. So Stoic with a big S is based on the philosophy. Stoic with a little s means to be like a machine, like a robot, like Spock from Star Trek, to be cold and callous. So it's just all a misunderstanding that's become very popular. Who was the founder? This is how I open up my book, with the founder and his journey. He was a wealthy merchant, and he was carrying the dead carcasses of the rare Murex sea snail. And basically what they'll do is grind these up and get the blood, and they'll turn this into a purple dye that was used for royal garments. So this man, named Zeno of Citium in 301 BCE, he was sailing this shipment that was worth more than its weight in gold. It's worth an incredible amount. He was going to be a very rich man. And he was shipwrecked, lost everything, almost died, and then washed ashore. And he visited the Delphic oracle, asked for guidance, and the Delphic oracle said, seek not to be dyed with the bodies of dead snails, but with the thoughts of dead men. And then he went to a bookstore. He was reading Xenophon's Memorabilia of Socrates, and he was inspired by him, the thoughts of a dead man. Socrates, it was dying his mind. And then he said to the bookstore owner, where are more men like Socrates? The bookstore owner pointed to Crates, the cynic, and said, he's like Socrates. And then he studied under Crates, and then he developed his own philosophy known as Zenonianism, which didn't last very long before they switched the name to Stoicism, because they taught under the Stoa Poikile, the painted porch, and that's where it gets its name. So Zeno of Citium, or Zeno of Citium, or Citium, is the founder of Stoicism, and he was from Citium, Cyprus, modern-day Cyprus. What book to read first? The Meditations of Marcus Aurelius or the Epictetus? It doesn't really matter. Just read whichever one seems the most exciting, because you need interest. If you've got interest into the topic, the subject of Stoicism, then it creates more interest and more desire to learn. If you pick up one of these books that might be really good, but a bit boring at the start, then you're not going to carry on. That's why I recommend my book, because it's short, it's enjoyable, easy to understand. It's a real good entry in Stoicism. Which Stoic was a slave? This Stoic, possibly my favorite Stoic. It's really hard to compare them, but he was a crippled slave born in Hierapolis, modern day Turkey. He was a Greek-born slave. Epictetus, which he actually didn't have a name, so he was given a name, Epictetus, which means acquired. So Epictetus was crippled by his master, who was bending his leg. He was torturing him, and he kept saying, if you bend it anymore, it will snap. If you bend it anymore, it will snap. And then his leg snapped, and instead of crying, instead of getting angry or moaning, Epictetus said, didn't I tell you, if you kept bending my leg, it will snap? So Epictetus is like a proper badass, and he inspired Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius references Epictetus more than anyone in his Meditations. So Epictetus was the slave Stoic, and his teachings are priceless. Which Stoic lived in a barrel? Now, he wasn't a Stoic. This was Diogenes, the cynic, but cynicism certainly inspired Stoicism, especially, Crates inspired Zeno. Diogenes was a very famous man for being a bit of an outcast, being a bit weird, different, and just following his philosophy to the T. Cynicism had principles, and he followed them, and became like a dog. He just went around naked, peed anywhere he wanted, disgraced himself, but he never cared about any of this, because he didn't care about impressing people or possessions or respect, any of these things. So Diogenes lived in a barrel naked, and there's a story actually of Alexander the Great, who was, one of the most powerful men alive, one of the richest men alive, and he came to visit Diogenes, and he said, as Diogenes was laying there naked in the sun, he stood over him, cast this great shadow upon him, and said, Diogenes, behold, Alexander the Great. If you want, what would you want? I can give you anything. Something like that. He said, I'll give you anything you desire. And Diogenes looked up, a bit annoyed actually, and said, can you move out of the way of the sun? And then Alexander the Great laughed, chuckled, and he said, if I was not Alexander the Great, I would wish to be Diogenes. And Diogenes agreed. He said, if I wasn't Diogenes, I would wish to be Diogenes. Very interesting character. There's a story about his followers asking what to do with him if he died. And he said, throw me over the city walls. And then he said, but master or teacher, I don't know what they called him, he said, but the wild animals, they'll rip apart your body. And he said, well, give me a staff to fight them away. And obviously the students understood well, if he was dead, he wouldn't be able to use his staff to fight them away. And his point was, if he was dead, he wouldn't care about animals tearing him apart. Interesting guy. Very recommend learning about him. Can Stoicism make us happy? I can't say for fact it will make you happy. I can just say based off of experience with many people I know, it's made them happy. Off of people online, it's made them happy. I've received so many messages from people saying it's turned their life around. Now, me personally, from maybe the age of 15 to, I don't know, early 20s, I was not happy. I didn't realize this, but I was very unhappy, very just in not a good place, sort of spiraling downward and downward. And Stoicism helped me get past all of this, and it made me happy. That's true. So for me, it made me happy. Many people, it made them happy. And Epictetus said, if virtue promises happiness, then progress towards virtue is also progress towards happiness. And of course, the whole point of Stoicism is to live in accordance with nature, which is to be or to follow virtue. So basically, to follow Stoicism is to follow virtue, which is progress towards happiness. This is what Epictetus, the crippled slave, said. And I think this is true, and I think many people agree with this. Many philosophies have agreed with this. So I would say Stoicism can make you happy. Oh, a quick word for today's sponsor, Huel. Huel is a quick, affordable, nutritiously complete food with everything that your body needs. I've been using Huel for a long time now to power my days. In the morning, I'll have my daily greens, which are delicious. I actually really like the daily greens, which is a surprise for daily greens. And it's quick. I can, sometimes I've been holding my daughter in one hand out. You set up the daily greens in the other hand in less than a minute, shake it up, and then I'm ready to go out the door. The same with the meals. You can make them in less than a minute and they're ready to go. They're delicious. They're actually really nice. I genuinely really like them. And I'm a bit of a food snob sometimes. Really like them. They're really healthy. And I think over time, they saved me a lot of time and money, especially like when I was writing the book. I didn't have to keep nipping to the shop to get random snacks, which is, I know it's a bad habit, but you get unhealthy things, you spend a load of money. So if you're interested in any Huel products, click the link in the description. Also, my book, The Everyday Stoic, Simple Rules for a Good Life, it is available on Amazon. It's available as an audiobook, which it's me reading it. I did a voiceover with Penguin. I think they did a very impressive job with it. They made my voice sound very good. They had an incredible booth at Mount Street Studios, and it was a very enjoyable experience. I actually really liked doing the audiobook. And then there's the Kindle, and obviously the hardcover. So if you're interested in that, then the link will also be in the description. And if you've enjoyed the book, which I know many of you have been sending me great messages, please leave a review on Amazon so other people can see what the book is about. So back to the most asked questions on Stoicism. Are Stoics religious? In the original text, so if you're looking at Marcus Aurelius, you see reference to the gods, you see reference to Zeus. So in a sense, you would say they followed some sort of religion, they worshipped gods. Now, people say that they sort of believed in this cosmic nature, the way the universe is. I would say you don't need to be religious to be Stoic, and you can be Stoic and an atheist. This is just my personal belief. I think these things are true. Stoicism is more of a guide to life. It's a philosophy for life, and I think, I know people that are Muslim and Stoic. I know people that are Catholic and Stoic. So I think you can be religious and Stoic, but if you're not religious, you can also be Stoic. When Stoicism started, I already answered that in 301 BC by the man named Zeno of Citium. It was around that time. Does Stoicism work? It worked for me. It certainly worked for me. I've already told of my story, how I was. Like many of the principles, so I'll tell you how Stoicism works. at the base, at the core, Stoicism teaches us to live in accordance with nature. So we're following virtue and we have a foundation to work off. Because virtue is the only good, vice is the only bad, everything else is indifferent. So from the start, Stoicism has given you a foundation to work off, to know where to go, what direction to go. You know, for the ship that not knows which direction it goes, no wind is favorable. You have a direction to go, so wind is favorable. It's taught me to not worry about things out of my control. It's taught me to focus on the present, be happy. I made a little poem the other day. I'm trying to remember it off the top of my head. But Stoicism gives us the wisdom to know what is good and bad, so we have a direction to go. It gives us the wisdom to know what is in our control and out of our control, so we don't waste our energy. We know where to put our energy. It gives us the courage to stand up for what is good and do what is right. It gives us the courage to endure hardships and to renounce what is alluring. It teaches us to be present in the moment. It teaches us to remember that we're mortal, so we don't waste life. And it teaches us moderation, so we're not doing too much of one thing or too little of another. And it teaches us justice, so we're not being selfish. We're not doing all these things for us. We're doing them for other people. So Stoicism certainly helps. There's so many stories of Stoicism helping, but I think the best one is my own. I was a big worrier. I worried all the time. And now I worry less, like a fraction of that, not even 10% of that. And I put that down to Stoicism. Can Stoic people love? The short answer. Okay, I'll go with the long answer. So in the Meditations, I've been making notes for like a decade. And on book 1 of the Meditations, which is right at the start, Marcus Aurelius is giving thanks to the people in his life and giving thanks to the gods for the blessings in his life. And I wrote some notes at the start. I wrote this a long time ago. And it's not just from the Meditations, it's from other Stoics. But I'll just read my notes. Described by Cicero, gaining friends who reciprocate your affection is second in importance to being wise and good. It is the most valuable indifference. So seek wise and good friends / mentors. In Zeno's ideal republic, it is full of sages who lived in friendship. In Seneca's letters, even a Stoic sage wants friends, although content and self-sufficient without. The Stoic attitude is that of benevolence. It is likely that Aurelius viewed all as a brother / sister or even an extension of himself, saying the soul of a man harms itself when it turns away from another human being. And then you have the circles of concern, which I drew a little diagram, the circles of concern, which has the self in the smaller circle, then the bigger is family, then the bigger is local community, then country, then humanity. And the idea was to bring these circles into the center. So you love yourself and you express that all the way to the all of humanity. So hopefully from that understanding, you get the friendship's important, mentors are important, people you love are important. And Marcus Aurelius thanked his mum for teaching him kindness and generosity and piety. So the original Stoics said you can love. You know, it's a natural human emotion to love. I guess what you wouldn't want to do is allow that love to corrupt you, drag you under. You know, you still want to keep your balance, your character, but you can love. I love my daughter, I love my partner, I love my family. And I consider myself someone who follows Stoicism. So, you know, you can love and you can be Stoic. Easy. And I get a lot of messages saying this, like, can Stoics be in relationships? Certainly can. It brings about new problems, new challenges. But if you see these things as obstacles that you can step up, stepping stones, then you will always grow. But if you see them as obstacles that just lay in your way, then you won't grow. So everything is a chance to learn and grow, even new relationships. You learn about people, you learn about yourself. So yeah, Stoics can love. Can Stoics cry? I was talking to Donald Robertson yesterday about this, and he was saying that there is a few historical accounts of Marcus Aurelius crying in public, crying to the masses, which seems a bit contradictory to being this man he was, according to popular belief today. People think it's contradictory, that men shouldn't cry. It's completely wrong. And I like to use Marcus Aurelius as an example. He was the great emperor of Rome. He fought in the Marcomannic Wars. He went through immense struggle during Antonine Plague, lost so many of his own family members, his loved ones, 9 of his own children, and then people in the wars. He must have seen death all around him. And he's known as this great man, this great, noble, strong man. Wrote the Meditations. Many men, alpha males look up to him. But he cried in public, and he was an advocate for expressing your emotions and this kind of thing, which a lot of alpha males, as we say, think this is not manly. Marcus Aurelius thought it was the opposite. You need to be in tune and understand your emotions. Do not suppress them. It's not good. You need to understand why things are happening to you, why you're responding in a certain way, and you need to understand how you can deal with these things properly, rather than just suppressing them or channeling them in something else. You need to cope with them properly. So Stoics can cry. They certainly can. Can women be Stoics? And this, I posted on my story the other day, can women be Stoics? And I think I got about 88 replies saying no, which I think it's just mind-blowing that so many people are still under the impression that women can't be Stoic. Now, if we explain it this way, Musonius Rufus, which is the man he taught Epictetus, who Epictetus was the Greek-born slave that was crippled. Epictetus taught Marcus Aurelius in a way, inspired him and influenced him. So Marcus Aurelius, this great man, Epictetus, I think, to me, like as a man of character, it's just one of the strongest characters I've ever read in literature throughout history. And then the man that taught him, Musonius Rufus, even just stronger, like more resilient, more typically manly. He got banished to an island, the island of Gyaros, and he recalls it as a pleasant time where he could practice his Stoic practices. These men, very what you would consider typical, what these people that are saying women can't be Stoic, they would say, this is a true man. They said women can be Stoic. Musonius Rufus has a whole book on this, a whole section of a book on women, how they can be Stoic, saying that to be Stoic, you need to live in accordance with nature, which is to follow virtue. And, women can follow virtue. Epictetus agreed. Marcus Aurelius, I wouldn't say he agreed. He didn't write about him agreeing, but he certainly credits a lot of what he learned to his mom. He looked up to his mom. And I think there's famous Stoic women, Faustina, Portia Catanus, Fannia. Portia Catanus, the wife of Brutus, who was Julius Caesar's assassin, she was this badass. There's a story where Brutus, her husband, and his boys didn't trust her, telling her knowledge, because she thought if she ever got caught, she would give up all this information. So in front of them, she got this knife, drove it through her leg, impaled her leg straight through, and she didn't cry, didn't complain or anything. And she said to them, she says, no amount of suffering, no amount of torture will make me betray you or betray my character. It's a pretty badass. And then there's a historian that wrote down saying how she didn't have the body, the strength, the physical strength of a man, but she had the mind more strong and valiant than the rest of us. So anyway, these are just a few historical accounts of women in Stoicism, but women can be Stoic. They certainly can. The person who introduced me to Stoicism, in a way, introduced me into that lifestyle in a way, was my mum. And she's the most Stoic person I've ever met. She doesn't know what Stoicism is. She probably does now, because she's got my book and she said she's going to read it. And I write about her in my book, but she's the most Stoic person I've ever met. And anyone who's going to argue this, there's no need to leave horrible comments about women. Just send me a message and I'll don't know. I'll answer your questions. But there's no reason to spread hate online just because you got some false bias about something. Why Stoicism is so popular. Stoicism is so popular. And another thing, Donald Robertson was talking about this yesterday, because Marcus Aurelius, and this is the same with Seneca as well, Marcus Aurelius was an expert. He was an expert in rhetoric. From a young age, he was taught how to speak, how to write, like on an expert level, like one of the best throughout history. And then he learns about Stoic practices, and he's an expert. He's learning so much. His knowledge on Stoicism and Stoic principles and self-help advice in a way is just incredible. And psychology, as I learned, his psychological knowledge was amazing. And he learns about Stoicism, and he is taught by one of his tutors to be a bit more common, a bit more down to earth, not do all this fancy writing. So then he gets all this knowledge, all this incredible writing and literature, and he learns how to condense it into these short phrases, short quotes, so quotable. So it can condense all this knowledge into a little passage, and people just latched onto these. And it's the same with Seneca and Epictetus. People just latched onto these small ideas, and they just spread like wildfire all over the world. But now, modern day, spread all over the internet. You've probably read so many quotes by Marcus Aurelius, or quotes falsely attributed to other people, but they're originally from the Stoics. So it's because of these three men, really, the way they wrote. And Marcus Aurelius was one of the most famous people in history. So there's so much information about him. And all this stuff gets shared around, and these books are bestsellers. And now it's popular as well because people think it's cool. We have all these philosophies, these Eastern philosophies and some Western philosophies that are quite hard to understand. They seem a bit like there's a huge entry level. You have to learn so much to understand it. Stoicism, you can just step right in and it's understandable. So people get in and start sharing it and start following it as a way of life. Stoicism. What is in our control? This is reference to the dichotomy of control, as explained by Epictetus, the Greek-born slave. He said, some things are within our power, others are not. Within our power are our opinion, our motivation, our desire, our aversion, and in a word, whatever is of our own doing. Not within our power, our health, wealth, reputation, office, and in a word, whatever is not of our own doing. So if you look at it this way, the things you control, the internal world, your opinions on things, the things you move towards, the things you hide away from, so the things you pursue, the things you flee, the opinions you make of things, and opinion, motivation, desire, aversion. Yeah, so these things, the internal workings, the internal mechanism, you control, and then everything else you don't control. So simply put, I've got the quote, you can dance in the rain or sulk in the rain, it will rain regardless. You can't control the rain. It'll rain regardless. So, but what you do control is your opinion of the rain. And then the same, you don't control traffic. There's going to be traffic, but you control your opinion of the traffic, how you respond to the traffic. You don't control rude people, but you control how you respond to them. And then it comes down, I always get this, people say, but health and wealth, reputation, that's in my power. Health, I could go for a run thinking health is in my control and then get hit by lightning, get hit by a piece of lava, magma flying from a volcano. I'm nowhere near a volcano, so I don't know how that would happen. I could get hit by a lorry, the earth could open up, I could fall in a sinkhole. So my health was taken out of my control. You get old, you get ill, you get illnesses and disease. All these things are outside of your control. You can certainly influence it in some way, but in the end of the day, life will take control of it for you. And that's the same as wealth. You can control your wealth, you can try control your wealth, and then it can be a financial crash. You can be injured, you can lose your job, this kind of thing. It's outside of your control. And then your reputation, you can do everything you want. I write about this in my book. You can be an amazing person. You can start a new workplace, be so nice to everyone, bake cakes, say nice things doing amazing work. And then someone will get jealous and decide to spread rumors, and then suddenly your reputation is less. People don't like you anymore because of these false rumors. So these things are out of your control. And when you learn that most of the world is outside of your control, and all these things you used to give energy to, you can just let go of all that energy you used to give them. And now suddenly you've got all this energy to focus on the things that you do control. It's such a freeing concept. And it's one of the best concepts of Stoicism. It frees you up to just focus on what's important, your own character, and seeing every challenge in life as a way to grow your character. It's a step in the right direction. So good days, bad days, it's all building you up to be a better person. So that is Stoicism's most asked questions on the internet. If you have any more questions, leave them in the comments. Subscribe, because I'm making 1 to 4 episodes a week, with many solo episodes talking about Stoicism and some with many great guests, like Donald Robertson. I've got some really good guests coming up that I won't share just yet, but it's very exciting. And remember, my book, The Everyday Stoic, Simple Rules for a Good Life, is available on Amazon and all good bookstores. I would love to hear. It's one of the best things I've started to receive in this life, actually, is feedback on the book, seeing people's comments, seeing people say, wow, I read your book or listened to your book and it helped me so much. So I would love to get your guys' feedback, guys and girls. I would love it. So yeah, if you've got the book or if you're getting the book, please let me know. I'd love to hear your feedback, and hopefully I'll keep writing and sharing. The podcast, yes, subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, or any podcast site that you want, because I'm doing many more episodes and sharing, always improving. I'm always learning, I'm always growing, and I'm taking note of what you said. Someone says the mic was covering my face too much, so I learned about mics and got a different mic, and apparently this is a better mic. I was speaking to a sound engineer, and hopefully the sound quality is better. I'll keep learning, keep improving the way I'm talking to you, because at the end of the day, what I personally believe is I had a journey that changed my life. Maybe over a decade long, I was in a position I hated, and I got to a position I love. And if I can learn to articulate this in the best way, I can explain the position I was in, so you can reason with that and understand that, and maybe you can see yourself within that, you can empathize with that. If I could say where I was and where I got, then you can see where you can get, where you can go from, see that it's possible. But then if I can articulate correctly the correct path I took, then you can also take that same path. And I'm hoping by talking to these experts, talking to these people that have also took paths in life, then you can start to reason with them, because some people you resonate more with. So subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out on an episode. Ask any question you want, and tell me which episodes you would like to see, or what guest you would like to see. Send them my way, because I just want to keep learning and sharing, because I believe we all deserve to flourish. And that's the whole point of this podcast, is helping you flourish, so you can learn certain principles from people, from philosophies, so that you too can flourish and get over your problems, as we deserve to flourish for ourselves and for the people we love around us, to become the best version of ourselves. And thank you for today's sponsor, Huel. Huel is a quick, affordable, nutritiously complete food with everything that your body needs. And if you have any interest in Huel products, click the link in the description. I'm sure you'll like them just as much as me. Thank you for watching.